This is Ash Ketchum. We all know him and how it took him 20 years to win his first Pokemon League championship in Alola. Most people think the same thing. Wow, 20 years and he's still only 10 years old? I did the same. But what if I were to tell you that there is a universe out there where Ash actually won his first Pokemon League in the Kanto region? Hi, I'm Ronan Charizard. I'm relatively new to YouTube. I grew up reading comic books and watching anime. One of my first introductions to anime was Pokemon, back in 1999. Ever since then, I've watched every season of Pokemon and played every generation of Pokemon game. One of the things that has always fascinated me was the theory of multiverse, especially when it pertains to comics and anime. This is something that has been highlighted more and more in recent years in the Pokemon games, starting in the 6th generation. What I want to do is explore the multiverse of Pokemon and experience the journey and the outcome in a different universe of Pokemon. Like this one I've done, What If Ash Was Born in Unova? It's my first dive into the multiverse of Pokemon, and if you haven't seen it yet, it would be greatly appreciated if you go check it out. And while you're there, smash the like button. We're wrapping up the first season in the next couple of weeks, and I have big plans going forward for Season 2. But now, for the reason we are all here, what if Ash won the Indigo League? Let's explore this together. To start off, I don't think Ash would change as far as his origin story. He would still wake up late and miss his chance at his starter and get Pikachu. They still go through the hardship of Pikachu not wanting to listen to Ash and Ash trying to catch a sparrow with a boulder. Okay, well, it was a rock, but Ash was a douche for throwing it at it, and he got what he deserved. Ending with Pikachu bonding in a lifelong friendship. Oh, and not to forget, he would still encounter Misty, stealing her bike, again, a douche, and take off. Pikachu gets hit by lightning, then it fries the sparrows, then they lay unconscious until they see Ho-Oh. Thanks, Dexter. What are you good for? Ash and Pikachu then get to Viridian City, they learn about the Pokemon League, and they meet Team Rocket, save the Pokemon Center, roast Misty's bike in the process, and develop a stalker that would last for 2 generations. Then we move on to Viridian Forest. Ash still catches Caterpie and Pidgeotto. Ash beats Team Rocket, Caterpie evolves, and then they battle the bug catcher. It is here at this point we establish that Ash is a bad trainer. This is the first major impact that I can see would change Ash. The events still play out as normal, but is the conversation with the bug catcher that gets to Ash, and how he is compared to the other trainers from Palette, especially Gary, and that he is a very weak trainer. Ash then asks the bug catcher how. The bug catcher explains that during his battles with the other trainers from Palette, they demonstrated an understanding of their Pokemon, its health and type advantage, as to where Ash just appears to be winging it. And by doing this, he will always be in last place. This one conversation will resonate with Ash for the rest of his Pokemon journey. Ash still evolves Metapod into Butterfree, and the bug catcher does commend him on his ability to wield Butterfree, but this doesn't offset what the bug catcher had originally said about Ash. After the events in Viridian Forest, everyone moves on to Pewter City. They still meet Brock's dad and challenge Brock. Ash, of course, loses his first gym battle. Brock's dad then offers to help him, and they supercharge Pikachu. Ash returns to the gym for another challenge, and the battle plays out the same way it did in the anime. Pidgeotto gets wrecked, and Pikachu cleans up the rest, getting the win with the assistance of the water sprinklers going off. Ash chooses to leave, declaring that he feels like he didn't beat Brock, declaring that he will return when he is a better trainer. Later, Ash is headed out of town, Misty in tow, when Brock stops him and tries to give him the badge. This is where the second change happens. Instead of taking the badge, Ash sticks to his original plan and refuses to take something that he did not earn. Brock's dad still shows up and tells Brock that he should travel with Ash and live his dream of being a great breeder. Brock does do this, but Ash sets one condition, that Brock assumes a role of a coach to help him grow. In the series, this was a thing, but here, Ash makes it a condition that he can grow with, further cementing the change in his drive to win the league. They head on to Mount Moon, and things still go the same there. Brock gets Zubat, and they see the Moonstone and they move on to Cerulean City. Misty is still sketchy about it. Ash still sees the sign saying that he is a loser, and they move on. Team Rocket still steals the giant vacuum. Ash has to battle Misty, and Team Rocket interrupts the battle. They get stopped, and Misty's sister tries to give Ash the badge, claiming that Misty would have lost if Ash used Pikachu anyway. Misty is against it, but this time, so is Ash. He tells them that he won't take the badge that he doesn't earn, and he will be returned to the gym when the sisters are more enthusiastic about battling, and he can beat them fairly. The group then moves on from Cerulean City. Ash catches Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, and then they enter at the lighthouse. Ash catches Krabby, meets Bill, and moves on to Vermilion City. Here is where the next change happens. Ash doesn't have any badges. They are at the Pokemon Center. The kid comes in with the Rattata that is KO'd, and Ash asks about the battle and the gym leader and learns about Surge. Ash goes on to challenge the gym, Lieutenant Surge, but the first battle they have would be a 2-on-2 instead of a 1-on-1 like in the original. Ash would use Charmander and Squirtle, and Surge would use Voltorb and Raichu. Charmander would beat Voltorb quickly with a flamethrower and a Skull Bash. Charmander puts up a fight against Raichu, but is ultimately knocked out. After all the taunting from Surge, Ash sends in Pikachu, and it gets wrecked by Raichu just like in the original. Then Ash is presented with the opportunity to evolve Pikachu, but Pikachu doesn't want to. Brock chimes in to help Ash form a strategy for the next time that they battle. A couple of days later, Ash heads back to the gym with a new strategy in hand, ready for another 2-on-2 battle. This time, Ash sends in Pikachu to face Voltorb. Pikachu manages to beat it with little to no effort. But then, Raichu is sent out. Pikachu wanted to get its revenge, but Ash recalls Pikachu, sticking to the plan. Ash sends out his second Pokemon, but this time, it's going to be Bulbasaur. Brock pointed out that grass types have a type advantage against electric types, and this means it could be more useful against Raichu. This gets more trash talk from Surge about how Pikachu was weak, and it doesn't matter what Ash does, he still won't win. This angers Pikachu, but Ash reminds him of the plan. Overall, the battle between Bulbasaur and Raichu doesn't last very long. Raichu does manage to take it out, but not before taking a Razor Leaf and, even more importantly, getting hit with the Leech Seed. Ash sends back in Pikachu. This is where Ash uses Pikachu's speed to his advantage. They manage to take down Surge and Raichu, getting Ash his first Pokemon League gym badge. This lights a fire under Ash as he realizes that he is now severely behind the other three trainers from Pallet. We move on to the events of Bye Bye Butterfree. And everything here happens the same. Ash releases Butterfree. But for now. Then Ash goes on to Saffron City and challenges Sabrina for the gym badge. He still loses, and he gets bailed out by her dad. Then Ash, Misty, and Brock head to Lavender Town to secure a ghost type. After Ash literally dies, he manages to convince Haunter to join him. But Ash actually catches it with a Pokeball. This is mainly to simplify the rematch with Sabrina. But Ash does let Haunter hang outside the Pokeball. They all head to the Saffron City gym. Along the way, Brock insists that Ash and him have some more practice battles so that him and Haunter can get in sync with each other. Ash then has a few battles with Brock and Misty, learning Haunter's moves and abilities. They finally arrive back at the Saffron gym. Sabrina is not happy that they got away. She tells Ash that this time, when she wins, they will not escape. The events play out a little bit differently though, as Sabrina wants a 2-on-2 battle. Ash wasn't prepared for this, but accepts it, and Sabrina sends out a Slowpoke. It seems to have the same link with Sabrina as Kadabra does. Ash calls for Haunter, but it's nowhere to be found. Sabrina tells Ash that since his first Pokemon isn't not present, he has lost the first battle. So Ash has no choice but to go with Pikachu. After a quick attack and a Thunder Shock, Slowpoke goes down and Kadabra comes out. From here, everything pretty much goes the same as the original. Kadabra dominates Pikachu until Haunter shows up and blows up in Sabrina's face. But here, this is where it changes slightly. This doesn't win the match, but it does cause Sabrina's concentration to split just enough for Pikachu to land a Thunderbolt with full power, knocking it out. The little girl by Sabrina's side vanishes, and Ash realizes Sabrina only ever wanted somebody to play with. He walks over to Sabrina, and he hands her Haunter's Pokeball. Haunter gets sad, but Ash explains, this is where it has to be, but not to worry, as he will call on it when it needs help. Sabrina actually thanks Ash and hands him the Marsh Badge, and they all head on their way. In the next episode, Ash calls Professor Oak to tell him about how he got his second badge. The professor states that Gary has already earned 5 badges and caught 30 Pokemon, and tells Ash that he needs to catch more of them. Then, motivated by not having caught anything new, Mankey enters the picture, and Ash decides to try and catch it. The events all transpire as normal, and Mankey evolves into Primeape, beating down on Team Rocket. After a heated battle between Charmander and Primeape, Ash catches it, and they move on to Celadon City. Now, on to the next gym. All the stuff happens the same as in the original, leading up to the actual battle. But there are some things here that we have to fix. This was Ash's first 3-on-3 gym battle in the series. But in the original, when a Pokemon battle was over, both Pokemon were done, and the trainers would choose their next one. But in this universe, we will be using the rules that were established later in the anime. Both trainers will battle until there is only one Pokemon left, and only the challenger is allowed substitutions. In the original, Erica went with a team of Tangela, Weepinbell, and Gloom. We won't change this, but Ash's team will have to change. He will still use Bulbasaur and Charmander, like in the original, but instead of Pikachu, he will go with Pidgeotto. I believe that with Brock taking more of an active role in his coach, Ash will know the difference of type advantages. This is one thing that they would practice in their training together. And after using Bulbasaur against Brock's Zubat, he would know that flying types are strong against grass types. As a result, Bulbasaur would still lose to Tangela, but Charmander would beat Tangela and Weepinbell, then lose to Gloom. Ash then would just send out Pidgeotto to battle Gloom. Ash would realize that Gloom's stink could be blown away with Pidgeotto's gust, and then a quick attack or two, Pidgeotto would take down Gloom. Since we didn't have the hesitation on which Pokemon he would choose to send in, this results in the attack from Team Rocket happening later, after the gym battle has already occurred. This would result in Ash actually winning the gym badge, fair and square. The rest of the episode would play out as usual, Ash running in to save Gloom, and then they put out the fire on the gym. Brock catches Vulpix, and Misty catches Psyduck. And we move on to the next episode. This is the Pokemon Grand Prix episode. In this episode, Ash would have tamed Primeape and win the Pokemon Grand Prix in the original timeline, then release Primeape, never to be seen again. But in our timeline, Ash turns down Anthony's offer in favor of training Primeape himself for now. Ash's pride has become a driving factor in this decision. He barely knows what Primeape is capable of, and wants to be the trainer to discover it, not some nobody that couldn't even win the tournament that they were training for in the first place. So Ash and the gang move on to the next episode. This is where Ash catches Muck, which is fine. I always thought as a kid Ash should have gotten Magnemite, but we all know that Pikachu will only ever be the only electric type that Ash catches. So moving on. We move on to the Fuchsia City Gym. Ash still battles with Ia, and after a Whirlwind and a Leech Seed from Bulbasaur, Ash beats Ia and Koga enters. They start their battle. Koga still leads with Venomoth, and Ash still leads with Pidgeotto. In the original, Pidgeotto was beaten by a combination of Stun Spore and Sleep Powder. We all know that this combination of moves isn't actually possible, but for anime's sake, this will still be the case. But Pidgeotto does manage to push back the paralysis with Gust, hitting Venomoth, and then succumbing to the Sleep Powder. Ash recalls Pidgeotto and sends out Charmander. Charmander and Venomoth still have their first exchange, with Flamethrower canceling out one another. Then Team Rocket interferes with the battle, and after Psyduck's pathetic attempts to stop them and Voltorb blowing up the gym, the Psyduck finally saving the day, Ash and Koga resume their battle, after both agree that they can. Ash wants Charmander to get some rest, so he resends out Pidgeotto. Koga, honoring the rules of a gym leader, keeps in Venomoth. Remember, aside from Sleep Powder, Pidgeotto hasn't taken any damage. but this quickly changes after a series of tackles and then a confusion from Venomoth. Luckily, Pidgeotto does wake up from it. And now that it's up, Ash decided to use Pidgeotto's speed to his advantage and has it attack with Quick Attack, followed by a Gust. But both Pokemon are starting to show fatigue, and their next attack will end it. Koga orders Tackle and Ash orders Quick Attack. The two Pokemon collide mid-air with full force, knocking each other out. Ash sends back in Charmander, and Koga chooses Golbat. From here, the battle plays out as the same as the original, with Golbat losing to a Flamethrower. Ash getting the Soul Badge. This puts Ash at 4 badges, and he has started to close the gap between him and the other trainers from Pallet. They are all only 1 ahead of him, with the exception of Gary, who is 2. Ash finds this out when he calls Professor Oak from the Fuchsia City Pokemon Center. Oak insists that Ash close the gap. If he doesn't, and he misses the registration for the Pokemon League main event, he will have to wait a whole year before he can re-register. Ash, just finding this out, makes a decision that will further divide this timeline from the original. Ash chooses not to check out the Savari Zone in favor of heading to Cinnabar Island and the next gym badge. This means he did not catch the 30 Tauros, and we will not have to violate Pokemon's Second Amendment rights. So moving on. The next major stop in Ash's journey would be Showdown in Dark City. I think this would be a great way to showcase Primeape and Ash. This episode has a lot of fighting type Pokemon, so it could have been Ash's and Primeape's episode to bond even closer. The next episode, Ash encounters the March of the Executor, and everything happens normal, including Charmander evolving into Charmeleon. But let's put a little bit more context as to why Charmeleon does not obey Ash. In the original, it was stated that Ash wasn't experienced enough to have Charmeleon's respect. And I mean, who could blame him? After Ash caught Charmander, it quickly became the powerhouse of Ash's team. And when you have a chip on your shoulder, it can cause an ego. But here, that role has been replaced by Primeape. With Ash and Brock doing all the extra training the way they do, it quickly becomes apparent to Charmeleon that it has been replaced again. Remember, it chose Ash over its original trainer, now just to be replaced again by a stronger Pokemon. But Ash doesn't realize this dynamic, and in the episode A Problem with Paris, Charmeleon acts out even more in the original, actually trying to cause harm to Paris the first time they battle. But in this timeline, kind of like in X and Y, when Hawlucha would pop out every time Noivern got in trouble, Primeape pops out to stop Charmeleon, to try and put it into check. This time, because Primeape doesn't like Charmeleon's attitude, it feels responsibility to keep it in check. And it will do so anytime Charmeleon steps out of line. Unfortunately, this creates more of a divide for Ash and Charmeleon. That's the end of episode 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really think that we did a really good job at rewriting this and creating some compelling context to give some more definition and depth to Ash's journey for him to become an actual champion in his first season. Anyway, I'm Ronan Charizard, and I hope to see you next time. Signing out.
Hey everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for your support. If you like the content that I'm providing, please don't forget to subscribe. And also, don't forget to leave a like, as it really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and helps my content get to a bigger audience to help the channel grow. I will see you in the next video.